The banquet was going on in Emperor Qi's palace. The banquet was going on in Emperor Qi's palace. Yi Futian and others had arrived. Emperor Qi came in person too. Is it true that recently some royal warriors came to visit Yi Futian's provisional palace and were all taken away on a stretcher? Emperor Qi looked at the warriors and asked. Many people lowered their heads and looked quite embarrassed. Those proud, big figures went to challenge Yi Futian and ended up being defeated. Mr. Yi is the strongest warrior of Crimson Dragon Realm in this generation. It is normal that Emperor Qi's territory has no one to contend with him. Qiyu was standing nearby and said. Emperor Qi nodded and said, realizing your own shortcomings is the first step for a more powerful cultivation path. From now on, don't be someone who sits in a well and thinks they know the world. And soon, you can depart with Qiyu. Aye, your majesty, people all answered, nodding. They all knew what Emperor Qi meant. Soon, a big event would happen in Heavenly Mandate Realm. This event would be of vital importance for cultivators in this district, especially for those who studied Thunder Laws. That would be a rare chance for them. Even though they might not grasp the chance, they should still go to the event. Yi Futian, I know the Yun clan of Luo City also cultivates in thunder skills. Since Chen Yue is your disciple, you must be good at the Law of Thunders as well, right? Emperor Qi asked Yi Futian. I can't say I am good at it, only the basics, Yi Futian replied subserviently. You are being modest. I can tell your thunder skills are good too, replied Emperor Qi. Soon, there will be a chance of inheritance. I will send many people there. Would you like to go with them? It was out of Yi Futian's expectation. Emperor Qi, as a Renhuang, seemed to pay much attention to this. Or did Emperor Qi draw Yi Futian to his side also because of this thing? To let him accompany Qiyu? May I know where to go? Asked Yi Futian. Have you heard about this after you came to the Heavenly Mandate Palace? Asked Emperor Qi. All the thunder skills in the world originated from the Heavenly Palace. Yes, said Yi Futian nodding. He indeed heard about it from Yun Nin when he was in the Yun clan of Luo City. All the thunder skills in the world originated from the Heavenly Palace. The Heavenly Palace here referred to the top power in the Heavenly Mandate Palace, Violet Heavenly Palace. Was the thing related to the Violet Heavenly Palace? The place you are going to is one of the orthodox holy places of the Violet Heavenly Palace and contained one of the 8 Thunder Law inheritances of the Violet Heavenly Palace, said Emperor Qi slowly. He looked solemn as if lost in thought of the past and then said, the Violet Heavenly Palace inherited from heaven and owned the Heavenly Law, Divine Thunder of Purple Heaven. There are 72 layers in the Divine Thunder of Purple Heaven, 8 sects, and numerous branches in the world, and this vast district contained one of the 8 orthodoxies of the Violet Heaven Palace. The place you will be going is related to it. Of course, nobody is forced to go. It is voluntary. Yi Futian slightly nodded. Emperor Qi just provided a simple introduction and didn't give any details, but if he decided to go, he would get to know more. Of course, Yi Futian wanted to go. All thunder skills of the world originated from the Heavenly Palace. It was one of the 8 orthodoxies of the Purple Heavenly Palace. He came to the Heavenly Mandate Realm in order to reach higher levels and search for an answer. If he had the chance to approach the Violet Heavenly Palace, it would be a very good choice. We don't cultivate in Thunder Laws, we just hang around. You don't have to join in the fun, said Qi Shang. He was not the only one. Many people didn't cultivate in Thunder Laws either. He had told Yi Futian he might part with him and go somewhere else. All right, then, Emperor Qi said, nodding. Suddenly, Emperor Qi lifted his eyebrows. He raised his head and looked up into the distance as if having perceived something. His forceful mind stormed out and enveloped the boundless space. And soon he saw a place there. On the outskirt of the imperial city, a group of people surrounded a young man in white. The leader of the group had an unusual temperament. It was as if he was aloof from the world. He stared at the man in white emotionlessly. The person in white was Gu Donglu. He had been fleeing on his way and had just come here after hearing about the thing that happened in the city. However, he was still blocked the moment he entered the city. The young leader in the group waved his hand and immediately, these people flashed and encircled Gu Donglu. Keep him alive, the young leader ordered mercilessly. Appalling life force was released from his body. From Gu Donglio's body, his life force also burst out violently. The 9 characters of spiritual power appeared and rotated around his body. A celestial phantom appeared, and a huge amount of wills gushed out. Seeing the scene, the young leader turned more concerned and yelled out, "Take him, right away." But at this moment, a suffocating pressure came down from the sky dome and enveloped the boundless space. It was the might of a Renhuang. A giant face showed up in the void sky. It was formed by wills. It was Emperor Qi's face. He paused for a second when seeing the ancient characters around Gu Donglu, the celestial phantom, and soon looked toward the group of people and asked, "Didn't you know you are not allowed to break into the palace in my territory?" The young man who took the lead slightly bowed to Emperor Qi and said, "Our apologies to bother you, Your Majesty. We will leave immediately after taking him away." And then he took out a token to show him. There were 2 characters on it. Wu Tu, Earth, the 5th essential. The token of Wu Tu? Above the sky dome, Emperor Qi slightly frowned at the scene. Gu Donglu raised his head and looked toward Emperor Qi. Since he was here, Emperor Qi should have known the reason. Yi Futian came here and stirred up the whole realm but was still looking for him. Emperor Qi might have made his guess. However, at this moment, Emperor Qi didn't say anything. He just stared at Gu Donglu in silence, as if he was able to see something from his halo. They wanted to capture him. Was it because? No, it shouldn't be possible. The celestial gate of Heavenly Gate should be extinct. We apologize to bother Your Majesty. The young man slightly bowed and walked to Gu Donglu. The life force emitting from his body was copious, extremely forceful. Gu Donglu was severely injured. Looking at the warriors coming to him, he saw Emperor Qi's attitude. Gu Donglu immediately understood that these people who came to capture him had prestigious identities, even higher than Emperor Qi, the Renhuang. Otherwise, they would not dare to intrude into the imperial palace. "I will go by myself," said Gu Donglu. There was no need to persist. He took a step toward them and gave up resisting. He headed here after he got news about Yi Futian and still reached the imperial palace after many difficulties. Since Yi Futian was his younger brother attracted attention from the Renhuang in this territory, he thought he would be safe here. But obviously he underestimated these people's identities. Even a Renhuang didn't dare to block them. It meant that even if he had found Yi Futian and others, it would be useless and might get them involved. So he would just go with them. It was just, so far, he hadn't figured out what the whole thing was about. Why did these people have to capture him? "Again, I apologize for this trouble I brought, Your Majesty," the young man bowed and said to Emperor Qi after noticing Gu Donglu following them. "Hope I can visit you again if I have the chance. Besides, Your Majesty can let your people depart now." After these words, they turned around and soon left the imperial palace. Emperor Qi's face gradually vanished in the void sky. In the banquet, when Emperor Qi's mind came back, many people were watching him. They all noticed Emperor Qi released his mind. Nobody knew what happened. A beam of mind shot out, and immediately, a virtual scene appeared in the void sky. Yi Futian suddenly rose to his feet and yelled, "Third brother!" Emperor Qi looked toward Yi Futian. Did he call him third brother? The sword saint stood up too. He looked quite worried. "Your Majesty, that person is my elder brother. Please show mercy to stop them," Yi Futian pleaded. He didn't know who Gu Donglu had offended, but now, only Emperor Qi could save him. Emperor Qi looked toward Yi Futian and said, "The token he holds in hand is called the token of Wu Tuesday. They belong to the place which I just told you about, one of the 8 orthodoxies of the Violet Heavenly Palace. Their real strength is very strong." Yi Futian turned pale. Even Emperor Qi didn't dare to block them? The 8 orthodoxies of the Violet Heavenly Palace. How did the third brother offend them? "Master, let's go chase them," said Yi Futian to Qi Xiangang. "There is no use of it. They had crossed the space and left using divine instruments," said Emperor Qi. This Gu Donglu should not be a simple person since a direct descendant of the palace chased him, but with such a divine instrument, no wonder the young man could take him away even though he had arrived. There was no other way to go. Was he really your brother from Crimson Dragon Realm? Emperor Qi looked toward Yi Futian and asked. Futian raised his head and looked quite confused. Is your brother related to the celestial gate of vast heaven? Emperor Qi continued asking. The celestial gate of vast heaven? Futian murmured. It is a top power in the heavenly mandate realm. The third brother came from the lower realms. How could he have a connection with them? No, we came from Emperor Xia's realm of Crimson Dragon Realm, a smaller place, and so did my brother. He shouldn't have any connection with them, replied Futian. What is your brother's last name? Emperor Qi fixed his eyes on him and continued asking. His last name is Gu, replied Futian. He felt very anxious, however, Emperor Qi might have known something, so he just replied honestly. Gu. An appalling beam of sharp will came out of Emperor Qi's eyes. Even the life force around his body began to fluctuate. The four highest ancient clans controlled the celestial gate of vast heaven at the political apex of the heavenly mandate realm. The Gu clan of the celestial gate of vast heaven should have been extinct. That lunatic should have been the last person of the clan. But now, a person whose last name was Gu showed up in the heavenly mandate realm. If he really belonged to the Gu clan, he would very likely stir up a storm in the heavenly mandate realm. Your Majesty, Futian looked at Emperor Qi and said, What happened? Emperor Qi stared at him and didn't respond, but rather he delivered his voice to him and said, Your brother's life spirit and ability are very similar to the ones used by the celestial gate of vast heaven of the past. However, the Gu clan in the celestial gate of vast heaven is extinct now. Futian was shocked by what Emperor Qi had told him. The Gu clan was extinct. But third brother's cultivation methods were very similar to the ones of the celestial gate of vast heaven Gu clan. Was it just a coincidence? Didn't Master kidnap the third brother? And Master didn't say the third brother had anything special. Or was Gu Donglu sent to the lower realms to take refuge in childhood? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Futian still had questions. He looked toward Emperor Qi and said telepathically, Your Majesty, my brother indeed is talented, but he is not powerful to an appalling level and shouldn't be one of the celestial gate of vast heaven. Can't it be a coincidence that he just has some similar abilities? Futian still had questions. He looked toward Emperor Qi and said telepathically, Your Majesty, my brother indeed is talented, but he is not powerful to an appalling level and shouldn't be one of the celestial gate of vast heaven. Can't it be a coincidence that he just has some similar abilities? Then why did they want to capture him? Asked Emperor Qi. Although I don't know the reason behind it, in all likelihood, that was the case. Futian was still confused and anxiously continued. If my brother is the real descendant of the Gu clan, what will they do to him? And how did the ancient Gu clan go extinct? The celestial gate of vast heaven was at the political apex in the heavenly mandate realm, and so far, it was still one of the highest and most powerful powers. So how did the Gu clan go extinct? If your brother is a descendant of the Gu clan, very probably he will stir up a storm in the heavenly mandate realm. But I can assure you, they would not dare to kill your brother and will not do that, said Emperor Qi. Even though they are one of the 8 violet heaven orthodoxies, they don't dare to turn hostile against the celestial gate of vast heaven completely. He continued, As for why the Gu clan went extinct, it is a long story. The Gu clan used to be a top power of the heavenly mandate realm, all because of a legendary figure who was invincible in the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. He made the Gu clan and the celestial gate of vast heaven become the top powers of the heaven mandate realms. Emperor Qi was reminiscing. He looked into the distance, full of yearning for that era. There used to 12 godlike figures in the Gu clan whose graceful bearings were unparalleled in the world. They were much stronger than the 9 sky goddess serving under the throne of Brahma's pure sky, especially that figure who owned all talent of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. He tried to break the fetters of the heavenly law, reached the top of cultivation, and became the top 1 deity of the heavenly mandate realm. But he who won the victory also caused the defeat. Because he offended the whole heavenly mandate realm, many top figures of the heavenly mandate realm entered the celestial gate. It was said that the battle brought the sky and earth to tears. On the battlefield, the great law collapsed, and corpses were scattered everywhere. Countless gallant heroes ended their lives there, until the celestial gate of vast heaven was no longer able to afford the cost and terminated him themselves, which also put that era to an end. During that time, how peerless that legendary warrior was. And the ending of the battle was that the celestial gate of vast heaven was still on the top of the heavenly mandate realm, but all the memories of that person were wiped out. Not only him, but the Gu clan also completely disappeared in the records of history. After that battle, the lunatic vanished in the chaos. Some people said he had died, some said he was still alive with a wisp of faith. That warrior's level was indeed infinitely close to perfection. Now, if a descendant of the Gu clan showed up, one could imagine what kind of storm he would conjure. This thing might not be kept under wraps for long. Nobody can predict what your brother's destiny will be like, Emperor Qi said to Yi Futian. Yi Futian looked pale. Did his third brother belong to the Gu clan? If it was true, the third brother would be involved in a chaotic storm. Your Majesty, which power did those people belong to? Asked Yi Futian. The territory of Emperor of Purple Underground, said Emperor Qi. The Emperor of Purple Underground ruled over one land and was the leader of the Purple Underworld. The Purple Underworld of this generation inherited the infernal thunder of Wutu in the divine thunder of Purple Heaven and strengthened it. The Purple Underworld was one of the 8 orthodoxies of the Violet Heavenly Palace. There were countless strong warriors under the demand of the Emperor of Purple Underground. The event that I just mentioned, Qi Yu's trial, will be held in that district. In the map of the Heavenly Mandate realm, Emperor Qi's territory was also within this district, and the territory of the Purple Underground Emperor was at the center of the district. Of course, from a broader point of view, one could observe that the Violet Heavenly Palace was at the very center of the Heavenly Mandate realm. The Violet Heavenly Palace spread teachings to the world, and in this district, there were 8 orthodoxies. Knowledge of cultivation radiated from these 8 orthodoxies, and this whole boundless area was almost all under their influence. That was why it was said that all the thunder techniques originated from the Heavenly Palace. The endless thunder techniques were all derived from the thunder laws of the Violet Heavenly Palace. Your Majesty, I should go now, Yi Futian said to Emperor Qi, cupping his hands. Emperor Qi, of course, understood his intentions. He took out a jade slip and said, "Inside the slip, there is a map of this district. If the message spreads, a storm will rise in the Purple Underworld Emperor's territory. In that situation, it is almost impossible for you to save your brother, and you can only depend on this." Since the Purple Underground Emperor's subordinates came to capture him, they would hand him over to the Purple Underground Emperor. Even Emperor Qi was unable to intervene. Although Emperor Qi was a Renhuang, and so was Emperor of Purple Underground, the legitimate heir of Violet Heavenly Palace, Emperor of Purple Underground, had a higher level. Yi Futian answered, nodding, "Thank you, Your Majesty." Emperor Qi didn't say anything and turned to the others, announcing, "I really wish I could have had more conversation with all of you in today's banquet, but unluckily, an accident occurred and has wasted much of my time. Let's call it a day, and you may leave at your discretion." People were a little confused by Emperor Qi's words. He and Yi Futian communicated a lot through telepathy, and many people had no idea what happened. Yi Futian looked around and saw Yun Ting, Yun and I, and Yun Qianyue sitting in the last row. "Sir, ma'am, I am deeply grateful for all you've done during these days. Now I should go. Let's meet again if we have the chance," Yi Futian said to Yun Ting, cupping his hands. Yun Teng and Yun and I rose to their feet and came near Yi Futian. Yun Qianyue followed them and looked quite worried. "Brother Yi, take care," Yun Teng said wholeheartedly. He was very grateful to Yi Futian. If he had not taken Yi Futian back to the clan by coincidence, nobody knew what kind of destiny would be waiting for this family. "Sir Yi, please take care of yourself," Yun and I also said. "I will," said Yi Futian, nodding. He soon turned to Yun Qianyue and said, "Since you have become His Majesty's disciple, you will have the chance to learn his teachings. Qianyue, try your best to grasp the chance. His Majesty teaches much better than I do." Yun Qianyue didn't want him to leave, but she still nodded and said, "Sir, I will keep what you said in mind." "Okay, I should go," said Yi Futian. Then the whole group of warriors bowed to Emperor Qi and left. They stepped into the air and crossed over the void sky. Emperor Qi stood there and watched them leave. He was going to arrange for Yi Futian and the others to go with Qiyu, but now since the thing happened, he just had to leave it aside. If you meet him in the future, try to help him if you can, Emperor Qi said to Qiyu. Qiyu nodded, showing he understood. You should start to get ready too. After a few days, you can depart with them. Emperor Qi looked toward the others and said, Your Majesty, it's time for us to bid farewell too. Qi Shang and others rose to their feet and requested to leave. This time, they came with Yi Futian from the Crimson Dragon realm, but they couldn't stay with him all the time. He also had planned to go somewhere else. Now, since Yi Futian's brother had trouble and Yi Futian couldn't wait to depart, they would not go with him. Not only Qi Shang, but other warriors who came with him from the Thousand Leaves City were also just Yi Futian's companions. Yi Futian didn't expect them to help solve this issue, because very likely this time he would have to face great difficulty. Just as Emperor Qi had speculated, although the Purple Underground Emperor's action of capturing Gu Donglu was confidential, Emperor Qi was not the only one who witnessed it. The secret was soon leaked. A descendant of the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven Gu clan showed up and was captured by the Purple Underground Emperor's subordinates and imprisoned in the Purple Underground Emperor's territory. The Gu clan was a clan in the legend in Heavenly Mandate Realm. It was said that the clan had 12 godlike figures and a lunatic who mastered the ultimate celestial law and was able to break into the path realms of all skies. Did his cultivation methods still exist? And since a descendant of the Gu clan showed up, were there any others? How many secrets did Gu Donglu have? Soon, the Purple Underground Emperor's territory became the center of the whole realm and the destination of numerous great warriors who were coming to unveil the secret. In addition, the message had even caught the attention of many top powers. It was said that the Violet Heavenly Palace had sent warriors to take Gu Donglu into the Violet Heavenly Palace. The Purple Underworld sect didn't hand him over to the Violet Heavenly Palace, perhaps because they had their own thoughts. On this day, outside the Purple Underground City, numerous warriors traveled in the air, heading toward this ancient city. Saint Plane figures with strong cultivation abilities were everywhere. Among all these travelers, a group of people who came from one direction were all Saint Plane warriors. Yi Futian was standing in the front. Next to him stood Yu Xing, Xiaoqing Yuan, Yi Wuchen, Huang Jioge, and others. Qi Xiangang and Wu Yong stood behind them. Their saint levels differed. We have arrived, Yi Futian said in a low voice. Since they departed from Emperor Qi's territory, they had covered an infinite distance. Don't know if Donglu is okay or not, the Sword Saint murmured. He had been worried about Gu Donglio's safety. He hoped he would be fine. Yi Futian was emotionless. Around them, warriors kept passing by. There was a voice coming from nearby. This time, the Purple Underground Emperor's territory will be bustling. I heard that not only warriors of this territory would come, but top powers of the whole realm will also all send warriors here. Was the descendant of the Gu clan that attractive to them? Someone inquired. If you heard from elders about the thing that happened in the past, you would understand, someone else replied. But besides the descendant of the Gu clan, a big event being held in the Purple Underground Emperor's territory is also a reason that many talented people are attracted here. It will be perfect if we can see the young generation of those top powers. Normal people were usually unable to see the descendants of all top powers. They would not come here. If what you said is true, does it mean I can even have the chance of seeing the saintesses under the throne of Nine Sky Goddess? What a loser, people around him jeered. The Nine Sky Goddess of the Brahma's pure sky was peerless in this world. The saintesses serving under her throne were also very unusual figures. Were there any men in the world who didn't want to see their faces? But how could they easily be seen? Yi Futian quietly listened to what people around him talked about. Would the Brahman's pure sky show up? What kind of person was that warrior of the Gu clan? Even a descendant of the Gu clan could raise such a big storm. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. In the Purple Nether City, everybody was talking about two things. In the Purple Nether City, Everybody was talking about two things. One was the descendant of the Gu clan. Obviously, the peerless figures of the Gu clan in the old days had so much influence on the heavenly mandate realms that even after many years, the appearance of a Gu clan descendant could stir up a disturbance. The person that was mentioned most frequently was that lunatic of the Gu clan. Yi Futian had known his real name, Gu Tianqing. He was not sure if third brother was a descendant of the Gu clan and didn't know if that legendary figure Gu Tianqing had any connection with the third brother. But now, since third brother was imprisoned, nobody knew what would happen to him. Countless warriors were heading toward the heavenly mandate realm. Numerous people had discussed the possibility that those top powers would also come for this descendant of the Gu clan. Under such a situation, Yi Futian also felt unsettled. The second thing that people talked about was the Heavenly Thunder Summit held on Wutu Mountain. It was a big event in the Purple Underground territory, especially for cultivators who cultivated in Thunder Laws. It was a very rare opportunity. Otherwise, Emperor Qi would not have sent his son Qi Yu here. Yi Futian had heard a lot about the Heavenly Thunder Summit of the Wutu Mountain and known what it was about. In fact, there was not much connection between the Heavenly Thunder Summit and the Purple Underground sect. It was initiated directly by the Violet Heavenly Palace, the ultimate land of Thunder Laws in the Heavenly Mandate realm. They spread the teachings to the world and let all suitable cultivators have the chance to learn Thunder Laws. Some people even had the opportunity to follow the orthodoxy of Wutu Infernal Thunder and became a successor of the Purple Underworld sect. Wutu Mountain was worshipped as the divine mountain of this territory. It was located within the Purple Nether City. At this moment, numerous warriors gathered in one place of the city. The whole area was full of people. There were stairs in front of the crowd, and the entrance of the divine mountain was at the top of stairs. Usually, people were prohibited from entering this divine mountain. No one was allowed to get inside. Outside the mountain, around the stairs and below them, there were giant stone pillars surrounded by the horrifying power of thunder. They let out rumbles of dull thunder, keeping people away. At this moment, Yi Futian had also come to this district. The divine mountain had not been open to the public yet, but many people had arrived beforehand and were viewing the scenery. Nobody knew how many people would inherit the thunder laws of the divine mountain this time. Yi Futian came here because entering the divine mountain was the only chance for him to approach the Purple Underground sect and learn about third brother's current situation. Don't know how many people will be chosen this time, someone said in the crowd. Not sure, but at least I know who will reach the top of the divine mountain and inherit the heavenly thunder laws of Wutu, someone said, laughing. It goes without saying, people nearby jeered. Streaking Cloud Sword Emperor's offspring Lu, you will definitely become the one who uses his sword to draw the heavenly thunder. The Streaking Cloud Sword Emperor was a Renhuang lord in this district. He cultivated in swordsmanship with thunder laws and was good at drawing thunder by sword. He had outstanding skills. This time, he was the most promising one to reach the top of the divine mountain. Don't be so sure. This time talents of all territories within this vast district will come. Every cultivator who specializes in thunder law might be here. So, competitive warriors may be much more than you have expected. There will definitely be a lot of outstanding figures showing up. Not to mention others, but will the Demon Emperor's offspring be weak? His sturdy body was smelted by thunder laws and can endure a great amount of sky thunder. Why can't he become the chosen one of the heavenly thunder? Someone nearby continued, and don't forget about the Bamboo Emperor's daughter. Many people nodded slightly. Indeed, this time, many warriors of this vast space would join the gathering, and even warriors of other territories would come, too. Yi Futian quietly listened in the crowd. Renhuang's children were rarely seen in the heavenly mandate realm. Those people's real strengths should be outstanding. Now, he had finally reached the top of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path, the ultimate realm. He might meet all kinds of big figures here. I have heard that Yimu, Binghua, and other orthodoxies of thunder law have all gradually reached and entered the imperial palace. Not only that, but nowadays in this purple nether city, perhaps among us, there are people of very distant powers, but they didn't come for the divine mountain. The Gu clan had vanished for many years and became history, and the descendant of the Gu clan is said to have only an average level of cultivation ability. How did he cause such a disturbance? Someone asked in confusion. Because his last name is Gu, and Gu Tianxing belonged to the Gu clan, an elder warrior replied, serious. Many young people had never experienced the uproar of that time and didn't know who Gu Tianxing was. Thus, they lacked respect for him. The higher a warrior's level was, the more he could understand Gu Tianxing's power, and the more he would pay attention to the descendant of the Gu clan. Anyone who had experienced the uproar of that year could not stay calm and act like nothing happened, knowing about the Gu clan descendant's appearance. Let's go, Yi Futian said in the crowd. His companions nodded and soon left with him. Xia Qingyuan asked him, even if you enter the Wutu Divine Mountain, what is the use of reaching the top and inheriting the Thunder Laws? Do you really want to study in the Purple Underground sect and become a successor of one of the 8 Violet Heavenly Palace Orthodox sects? Of course not, replied Yi Futian. It was not his goal. The Wutu Divine Mountain inherited the great laws of thunder. The chosen ones could only be one of the successors of Purple Underground sect, one of the 8 Violet Heavenly Palace Orthodox sects. He might be interested if he could become the successor of the whole 8 Orthodox sects. Of course, then his target would be the Violet Heavenly Palace instead of the Purple Underground sect. The Violet Underground Palace included 8 parts of heritage, and the 8 sects spread teachings of thunder laws in the Heavenly Mandate realm. Even a power like Purple Underground sect actually didn't have any direct connection with the Violet Heavenly Palace. The Purple Underground sect was not subordinated to the Violet Heavenly Palace and had its own heritage of laws. Their relationship was subtle. But of course, people usually just regarded them as having the same lineage. They all inherited from the Violet Heavenly Palace. Yi Futian and others found a place to stay and used the time to cultivate patiently. Every day new warriors were rushing into the Purple Nether City. More and more people had arrived. There were even messages leaking out from the Purple Underground Imperial Palace that the Renhuang Emperor of Purple Underground was considering how to deal with the descendant of the Gu clan. But now, since more and more issues were getting involved, the Renhuang Emperor of Purple Underground didn't dare to make arbitrary decisions. It was said that many top powers were on their way here. The hearsay made Yi Futian, who was cultivating in the inn courtyard, quite unsettled. Now, third brother was basically waiting to be killed, but Yi Futian had no solution. Because the top power of Heavenly Mandate realm was involved, not to mention him, but even Emperor Xia or Emperor Crimson Dragon couldn't do anything for him. Still worried about your brother? A person came near and asked. Yi Futian raised his head and saw Master. He slightly nodded and asked, do you have any advice, Master? You don't need to worry too much. Although I hadn't observed closely before, during the time I spent with your brother, I have seen your third brother's fortune. He should be fine, said Qi Xiangang. It's possible that this storm will become an opportunity for him. But the Gu clan is extinct. Who else can rescue him? Asked Yi Futian. He thought his master was just comforting him since he was too worried. You don't know what happened at that time. You don't know your third brother's past and identity. As you said before, your brother was kidnapped by another master of yours, and he has never talked about his family background or what outstanding talent he had. If so, isn't it possible that someone designed it purposely? Qi Xiangang said, it is not an easy thing to send a person from the Heavenly Mandate realm to the lower realms. Yi Futian fell silent. What Master said indeed made sense. He had perceived it, too, that the third brother probably was the descendant of the Gu clan. Indeed, it was extremely hard to send a normal person to the 9 states of lower worlds. Besides, the third brother's talent was outstanding, but he hardly showed his real strength. Was there a secret behind it? He remembered the third brother's life spirit had experienced an awakening. There is always a way in the cultivation of the great law. Don't need to preoccupy yourself with all that had happened. Just focus on the present and do what you are supposed to do, continued Qi Xiangang. Yi Futian nodded and didn't say much. Qi Xiangang turned around and soon left. Qi Shuanggong's shoulders looked so wide and dependable from behind. So why did the master come to Heavenly Mandate realm with Yi Futian? At this moment, Qi Xiangang was thinking of himself. Actually, he should not have come to the ultimate realm, But he still came. Just like last time, he was following his heart. All things coming up would have the best results. Instead of worrying, following things as they naturally occurred was a better choice. Everything had its time. He would try his best to live his life, and heaven had the answer of when his time would come. It was the day that the Wutu Divine Mountain would open. Numerous warriors gathered outside the Divine Mountain. Today was the day that the teachings of Wutu Divine Mountain would be spread, and the Violet Heavenly Palace would release the divine thunder of heavenly laws. Countless warriors had reached the Divine Mountain. They entered the Divine Mountain one after another. All of them had outstanding bearings. Only talented warriors dared to enter the Divine Mountain, while normal people might turn into ash under the divine thunder. A group of warriors showed up on the stairs. The ones who took the lead were all warriors of Nirvana Plane. There was also a young man standing among them. Seeing this person, Yi Futian's pupils slightly contracted. In the scene that Emperor Qi showed to him that day, this young man was the person who took away Third Brother. Obviously, he had a high standing in the Purple Underground sect. Yi Futian's stare was totally emotionless. That person's perception was keen. He seemed to notice and took a glance at Yi Futian. Glancing at Yi Futian's expression, he felt strange, but soon he moved his eyes elsewhere. He didn't pay attention to Yi Futian's existence. Today the 8 divine mountains will open at the same time. Here is the Wutu Divine Mountain. All of you can enter the Wutu Divine Mountain and inherit the laws of Wutu Infernal Thunder. I sincerely hope you can inherit the thunder laws and cultivate in the Purple Underground sect, the young man announced. Numerous people looked toward him, and many people communicated amongst themselves in low voices. He was the Purple Underground Emperor's favorite disciple, renowned in this district. With extraordinary talents, he once broke the previous record and undertook 900 heavenly thunders in the Divine Mountain. He was considered to be the heir to the lineage of Wutu. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Yi Futian heard people's discussion and had an idea of who the young man was. Yi Futian heard people's discussion and had an idea of who the young man was. So, he went through 900 streaks of divine thunder on the top of the Wutu Divine Mountain? He thought. Yi Futian was really interested to see just how powerful the orthodox sect of thunder laws from the Violet Heavenly Palace really was. Such an opportunity was extremely rare for thunder laws cultivators, which was why the opening ceremony of the 8 divine mountains was always a big event in the heavenly mandate realm and attracted a lot of strong cultivators. And one last reminder, you are responsible for your own safety in Wutu Divine Mountain. The law of divine thunder is dangerous, and Wutu Infernal Thunder is deadly. The higher your plane is, the more attacks you will meet, the young man continued. People understood what he meant. The stronger one's cultivation ability was, the more intense the thunder laws would be in the falling thunder induced by the Great Law. It was said that no Nirvana Plane cultivators had entered the 8 divine mountains for many years. However, there was not much influence on cultivators. All cultivators would choose to enter the divine mountains when they were 2 levels before Saint Plane so that they could get more chances. If they didn't succeed in these 2 levels, it was meaningless to enter during unblemished and Nirvana levels. At this moment, behind the young man, a deep roll of dull thunder came. It was as if something was in the process of formation. The enclosed sky in the distance changed color as if the destructive thunder might was converging. The young man turned his head and took a glance. He soon waved his hand and made way for participants, then said, "The divine thunder will soon fall upon the divine mountain. Please get ready to enter the divine mountain." After he finished talking, suddenly, all cultivators started flashing toward Wutu Divine Mountain. "Let's go," said Yi Futian. This time, all young cultivators in his group would enter the Divine Mountain, and the older Nirvana Plane cultivators would wait outside. Although the Sword Saint, Wuchen, and others didn't cultivate in thunder laws, they were still awed by the majesty of the divine thunder of the Great Law, so they also wanted to use its power to cleanse their bodies and purify their own laws. It was very beneficial to cultivators. They were not the only ones who thought like this. Many Saint Plain cultivators of the heavenly mandate realm also chose to enter the divine mountain on the launching date. In the imperial palace of the Purple Nether City, many important figures were looking toward the direction of the divine mountain. They all knew the 8 divine mountains were opened. Some of those cultivators who entered the divine mountain would become new successors of thunder laws of the heavenly mandate realm. Some of them would join the 8 orthodox sects of the thunder laws, like the Purple Underground sect in the future. Some of the more outstanding ones might even have the chance to enter the Violet Heavenly Palace and become their disciples. Futian had just stepped into the space of Wutu Divine Mountain. White and purple lightning flickered on the earth, roaming over every inch of land. A gust of suffocating might dropped down from the sky dome. Above their heads, long rolls of dull thunder came from the sky dome. A boundless saucer thunderstorm was in formation. Sky and earth were wrapped in darkness but, at the same time, illuminated by the flashes of thunder. The saucer-shaped heavenly thunder enveloped all layers of skies, circulating in the upper air. The center zone of the storm had the strongest might, and the Wutu Divine Mountain was right below it. Standing on the top of the Divine Mountain, one just felt the saucer storm was over his head. Seen from a distance, the scene was very appalling. Even imagining standing on the top of the mountain would give many goosebumps. Be careful, Futian reminded. They walked between the sky and earth. The light flew from the ground to their bodies and roamed around their bodies. The power of thunder didn't attack them, but when it roamed around his body, Futian could clearly feel there was a connection between him and the heavenly thunder above the sky dome. Futian looked toward others and saw many warriors try to merge the roaming power of thunder into their bodies. He understood. He switched his mind, and suddenly, the dazzling light started to flow around his body, merging the power of roaming thunder as his own. The thunder flow was running even faster. The induction between his body and the great law of thunder from the sky became even stronger. It was as if they were supposed to be in symbiosis. Some extraordinary talented figures were very confident. They headed in the direction of the central divine mountain at a breakneck pace while converting the thunder at the same time. Only those who could stand firm on the mountain were qualified for the laws of Wutu infernal thunder and had the chance to cultivate in the Purple Underground sect. Futian was also heading toward the divine mountain. Not only him, but everyone else did the same. They kept tempering the thunder around them while walking, merging the power into their bodies. In the distance, the fastest warrior had stepped up into the divine mountain. He raised both hands in the air, and suddenly, a sword appeared. Endless power of thunder flew around the sword. "Come to the sword," he said. Suddenly a muffled sound came from the sky dome like the beats of a drum. Dazzling beams of light were released from the sword. When the great laws of divine thunder fell from the sky dome, another dull sound came. The thunder light from the sky dome and the sword light collided. Endless divine thunder flew down into the sword and entered the warrior's body, merging into his flesh and bones. That is the streaking cloud sword emperor's offspring. Someone recognized that swordsman in training and said, the streaking cloud sword emperor's descendant, Lu Yu, was considered to be one of the most promising warriors, one who could reach the top of the divine mountain and go through the Wuta heavenly thunder. Few participants could compete with him. Boom! At this moment, his sword attracted the heavenly thunder from the sky, and the falling heavenly thunder kept flowing into his body through his sword. It was as if it was merging into his body. Lu Yu continued striding forward. He wanted to reach the top of the Wutu divine mountain as fast as he could. Not far away from Lu Yu, a lightning figure was also forcing his way forward. Endless thunder might was released from his body. He was heading toward the front like a terrifying holy beast. He was not a human cultivator. He was a descendant of a demon emperor who was good at thunder laws. The original body of the figure was a very powerful divine thunderbird sacred beast. Even though he was in a human figure, his mouth looked like a beak, and when he rushed up to the divine mountain, he directly opened his mouth. His body was covered by the appalling roaming thunder might. Lightning fell from the sky and was almost going to hit him, but he seemed not to care at all. He let out a shriek, and suddenly his human body turned into a beast. His sharp beak was opened wide, and every one of his feathers looked like it contained the luster of lightning. When he opened his beak, the thunder in the sky directly fell and entered his mouth. He just swallowed it like it was a vitamin. But even so, his body radically trembled once, and his upward movement was slowed down. However, that happened for one moment. After he swallowed the thunder, he continued going upward. Divine thunderbirds were born as the sacred beasts of thunder. They could directly devour the laws of thunder. They were natural demons of thunder species. Just like some human cultivators who had the natural talent to cultivate. Besides Lu Yu and the divine thunderbird, several cultivators had also entered the divine mountain. Among them, there was a graceful lady whose movement was extraordinarily swift and elegant. She was also very good at deploying the power of thunder. People continually entered the Wutu divine mountain. Some warriors were being crushed and falling from the Wutu divine mountain, blood streaming from their mouths. They looked very miserable. Battles also broke out between some warriors. The dazzling holy light enveloped Yi Futian. His body turned into the cauldron of the great law, burning all beings on earth. The thunder might that roamed around his body was also refined. At this moment, he had also stepped into the Wutu divine mountain. In just one moment, the saucer-shaped heavenly thunder above the sky dome seemed to perceive something. All of a sudden, the heavenly thunder fell down and directly darted toward him. Since many people had stepped into the divine mountain, Yi Futian could see endless heavenly thunder drop down as if it was the end of the world. The scene was very appalling. Boom! After a loud sound, the great law of thunder immediately fell. Yi Futian just felt the hefty might of the great law was crushing over his body, and he had to endure all of this. The intimidating power of destruction was about to smash his body into pieces, and it was still roaming on every part of his body. The dazzling deed of thorough comprehension was released to the extreme. Yi Futian transformed the thunder in his body as his energy and gradually got familiar with the might. Besides Yi Futian, Yu Sheng and others were also enduring the attacks of thunder. As a booming sound came, they all perceived the appalling trembling and defended their thunder might with their sturdy builds and powers. As warriors gradually stepped into the Wutu divine mountain, endless lightning dropped down from the saucer-shaped thunderstorm above the sky dome. Everyone perceived the real sense of destruction. It was as if the whole world of great law would collapse. The might fell down. The dropping divine thunder of the great law produced a kind of resonance with horrifying power. Many people felt their minds were trembling as if their brains would explode. Overwhelmed by such irresistible power, they all felt their existences were trivial. Lu Yu, at the highest height, stretched out 2 hands. Suddenly, tens of thousands of swords made metallic clangs. The swords induced the heavenly thunder, which dropped down on his body. The scene was incredibly gorgeous. The divine thunder kept flying up in the sky, devouring all the heavenly thunder. However, others were all thinking about how to avoid such appalling attacks. The result of so many warriors gathering in the Wutu divine mountain was dying together. The only solution was to remove most of them from the divine mountain and weaken the might of thunder. When the endless thunder fell, next to Yi Futian, a warrior raised 2 hands to induce the heavenly thunder and merge it in his palms. But the heavenly thunder flew down endlessly. He let out a shout and moved his palms, throwing the attack to Yi Futian and his companions. The thunder in his palms exploded, trembling the sky and earth. The horrifying thunder darted toward Yi Futian and Xia Qingyuan and, all of a sudden, came to the front. Bam! Xia Qingyuan was defending against the thunder from the sky and unexpectedly got hit by the thunder from his palms, but since she was defending the heavenly thunder from the sky and had a shield around her body, she was not severely hurt. But even so, she let out a low humph and was shaken away, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Not only Xia Qingyuan, but other companions were also being attacked too. On the battleground, there were warriors inducing the heavenly thunder to attack others everywhere. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Anyone who had stepped into the divine mountain knew of the might of the 8 mountains. Lightning bolts fell, and they were turned into way of the heavenly thunder. They brought about greater lightning powers in them. The attacks would grow even stronger next time. Anyone who had stepped into the divine mountain knew of the might of the 8 mountains. Lightning bolts fell, and they were turned into way of the heavenly thunder. They brought about greater lightning powers in them. The attacks would grow even stronger next time. As such, many who were out to withstand the might of the heavenly thunder at the divine mountain were unable to bear it toward the end. Unless the one in question was compatible with the infernal thunder of Wutu, enabling the seeds to be planted and completely meld within their body, causing them to develop talents for training in the ways of the infernal thunder of Wutu. They would have then inherited one of the 8 orthodoxies of the way of the heavenly thunder of Wutu. Even so, they would be unable to withstand strikes that were just too powerful. As the ordeal went on, the might grew to increasingly terrifying proportions. That legendary genius outside of the divine mountain had been able to withstand 900 bolts of the heavenly thunder, gaining the attention of a Renhuang, and was taken in as a student of Emperor of Purple Underground. As such, at that moment, many who wanted to plant seeds that were not all that powerful, which were available at earlier phases, needed to purge all other heavenly thunder as attacks other than the lightning seeds that were intended to be worked on. Doing so enabled them to throw others off of the divine mountain, and that would have enabled them to reduce competitors. The process was to be continued until later phases before working on the seeds of infernal thunder of Wutu to fulfill the requirements of the purple underworld. This would then give them the right to train under the purple underworld, making them part of the lineage of the infernal thunder of Wutu. As such, the phenomenon where countless unleashed attacks at the same time were seen on the divine mountain. Yi Futian, Xia Qingyuan, and the others were also attacked by lightning bolts brought about by those around them. The one who attacked them was a member of younger generations of some significant forces, who had exceptional talent in lightning manipulation. He was determined to train under the Emperor of Purple Underground on that trip to the divine mountain. Being accepted by the Emperor of Purple Underground implied that one would have acquired the true lineage of the infernal thunder of Wutu. To those who trained in the way of lightning, other than the Violet Heavenly Palace, the 8 true lineages of the way of thunder descending from the Violet Heavenly Palace would be the perfect choice. Yi Futian flashed and held Xia Qingyuan up and asked in a low voice, "Are you all right?" Xia Qingyuan shook her head. She did not train in the way of lightning, so she was having a hard time on the divine mountain. Yi Futian let go of her and glanced at the one who had just attacked them. That other person simply shot him a glance before continuing to make his way upward. He held his hands up and continued to attract lightning bolts, causing terrifying destructive powers to be contained on his hands. A bolt of lightning shot through the air, and Yi Futian disappeared from where he stood right away. That person seemed to have sensed something, and his brow twitched. He turned around and lashed out right away. The lightning in his hands turned into a huge kuei of lightning. It was extremely raging. It charged at Yi Futian while basking in divine lightning. The might of thunder shrouded the sky, enveloping Yi Futian's surroundings. The might of Yi Futian's deed of thorough comprehension burst with a rumble. The furnace of the great path turned into an extremely holy god of thunder, standing tall in the sky, bringing thousands of lightning bolts as it stood, tearing the space all around it. That kuei of lightning roared in anger. The lightning bolts bursting from its body shrouded the place altogether before thousands of lightning will burst through it, which then continued blasting until they hit that person. An intense beam of light was seen, and that person shuddered violently. The flash of lightning was seen bursting again. Yi Futian appeared right before him and lashed out with an attack. A rumble was heard, and the might of lightning burst within that person's body, who was then sent flying and spitting up blood. Intense fear was seen in his eyes. Being severely injured on the divine mountain would have been possibly lethal, and one could very possibly perish on the mountain from it. "Look out!" Xia Qingyuan warned. Yi Futian looked up. A bolt of lightning fell and was immersed within his body. Yi Futian felt as if his body was about to explode. His will rattled, and something seemed to have been triggered within him, causing the might of that lightning bolt to grow more intense. His body ground to a halt. He felt as if there was an intensely brilliant light in his body. It was like a seed of the great path, causing the lightning on the divine mountain to course all over his body in a frenzy. That would have resulted in the next attack becoming even stronger. A seed of the infernal thunder of Wutu, huh? Yi Futian muttered deep down. The Violet Heavenly Palace was a top-notch force in that supreme imperial realm. They were simply unbelievable for being able to rain down lightning bolts on the 8 divine mountains to filter out those who would inherit the ways of lightning. A shriek was heard by Yi Futian's side. He turned to look in that direction, finding the one whom he had injured before being struck by a lightning bolt and was unable to take it. That man's internal organs ruptured, and he kept spewing blood. His body continued to fall from the divine mountain. However, no one else looked at him. One could have been a genius of superb talent, but once a person ventured into the divine mountain, they would simply be just a face in the crowd. There were simply too many geniuses around, making him looking insignificant. Even if he were to die at the mountain, he would only have his incompetence to blame. Everyone knew of the dangers on the Wutu divine mountain. One had to weigh the pros and cons as they moved. Even with the dangers lurking around, countless came to the divine mountain nonetheless. However, a lot of people were forced to get off of the mountain, and others were injured within a short time. There were even others who had been like that man and suffered a horrible end. If another bolt of lightning were to hit him, death would have probably claimed him. You guys don't train in the ways of lightning, so it'd be enough for you all to just have your bodies tempered. If you're unable to take it, feel free to get off of the mountain, Yi Futian said to Xia Qingyuan, Yu Xing and the others. Xia Qingyuan nodded. People who did not train the ways of lightning were at a considerable disadvantage at the divine mountain. The attack from that man before had attracted a bolt of lightning right away, tapping into the lightning will throughout the divine mountain. I'll head up, Yi Futian said, and his body shot up as soon as he finished, taking to the sky and heading for higher places at the divine mountain. Thousands of thunderous beams of light appeared on Yi Futian, looking endless and spreading out like a formless net. The lightning rained from above, and boundless lightning bombarded all over the sky. Heavenly lightning shot into his body. His life palace unleashed a mystical aura, seeping out into his body. An ancient tree appeared, extending throughout his body, making it seem as if his body had become the trunk of the tree. Lightning powers flowing through his body was consumed right away by that tree, melding into it bit by bit. That lightning seed was also absorbed by the root of that ancient tree, causing lightning to sparkle at the root. Yi Futian seemed to have become very used to something like that happening, and he did not feel anything to be out of place at all. Lightning from the divine mountain surged throughout Yi Futian's body, causing the might of lightning all around him to grow increasingly intense. His body, which was continuing to go upward, surpassed many. He gradually became one of the handfuls of people who made it really far. As he went higher and higher, the might of the lightning bolts became increasingly strong. The lightning construct shrouding the entire divine mountain felt stifling. A young man dressed in a blue robe was not far away from Yi Futian. A bolt of lightning hit that young man, and his blue robe billowed loudly. His body expanded, and the might of lightning extended throughout every single part of his body, so much so that even his eyes seemed to sparkle with lightning. He looked up at several people before him, and his expression turned solemn. Those eyes sparkling with blue light were filled with determination and edge. He was not only there to join the ranks of the purple underworld and train. He was also there to become the most dazzling being in the entire divine mountain of Wutu. He was a descendant of Renhuang and inherited the path of Renhuang, enabling his lightning powers to be tremendous. Joining the ranks of purple underworld alone was hardly of any meaning to him. Thunderous noise sounded at his side. He turned around and saw Yi Futian, who continued to rise, and that other man, who was about to surpass him. It was obvious that he was not the only one with such intentions. "Stay down." A thunderous, overwhelming voice was heard. He took one step, causing the sky to shake. Yi Futian felt an extremely overbearing pressure come down on him. 5 bolts of lightning of different colors gathered, appearing on top of Yi Futian's head. The true ways of 5 thunder, many looked up. They recognized who that young man was when he attacked. Look out! That's the true ways of Five Thunder, capable of killing anything they touch, someone reminded from afar. Yi Futian turned to look at the one who talked, finding a familiar face. That person was none other than Prince Qiyu, son of Emperor Qi. When Emperor Qi invited them to head out with Qiyu, he was talking about to Wutu Divine Mountain. He had initially hoped that Yi Futian and his people would challenge the mountain with Qiyu, but they were there early due to something related to Gudonglu, and they met at the Divine Mountain. Down. The blue-robed young man pointed downwards, and the might of lightning throughout his body burst. 5 bolts of lightning were conjured and seemed to have taken the form of a matrix as they rained down. Those 5 colored beams shrouded the entire place and had engulfed the space where Yi Futian was as well. That was indeed a case of 5 thunders raining down on his head. His surroundings rumbled. Everything was to be crushed under the true ways of 5 thunder. Qiyu looked at Yi Futian's direction and felt rather concerned. The true ways of 5 thunder were descended from a very formidable ancient being. Yi Futian clasped his hands together, and powers of the great path gathered. An ancient god of thunder appeared within an instant. Its tall, majestic body was forged of lightning, and it held a hammer of thunder, which was then brought down and clashed directly with the true ways of 5 thunder. A beam of light burst through the air, suppressing the true ways of 5 thunder. That ancient god had thousands of lightning bolts running throughout its body, which was then unleashed throughout its surroundings and brought down on its target. Zzz. Lightning coursed throughout that man's body, causing him to shudder all over. That god of thunder's weapon was brought down again, which caused the 5 thunder to be suppressed further before being thrown back into the conjurer's body. A massive rumble was heard, and that man's body seemed to be about to explode, blood splattering everywhere. Yi Futian nodded to Qiyu and took another step forward as he continued his way upward. The path from then on was clear, and no one else stopped him. It was obvious that that one attack had shocked and made everyone else think twice. Qiyu looked at Yi Futian's back with a troubled look. He was wondering if that man, who Qi Shang claimed to be the #1 genius throughout Crimson Dragon Realm, was about to reach the top of the Divine Mountain as well. Yi Futian's immense talents put even Qiyu to shame. That attack, which Yi Futian just pulled, was not something that powerful. Still, it was that his ability at tapping into the power of ambient lightning was far superior to his opponents. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Yi Futian went up one step after another, and the mark left inside of him grew increasingly powerful. Lightning bolts throughout the Divine Mountain shrouded the vast space around him, with him at the very center. Yi Futian went up one step after another, and the mark left inside of him grew increasingly powerful. Lightning bolts throughout the Divine Mountain shrouded the vast space around him, with him at the very center. Every single bolt of lightning that smite was earth-shattering. Every part of his body was baptized by lightning. Even that ancient tree within him had boundless lightning coursing through it, but at the same time, it was also consuming the power of lightning. Is the power of the source of the great path? Yi Futian searched within himself and muttered. His body became a furnace when the deed of thorough comprehension was cast, refining the divine lightning of his surroundings, melding them with the lightning will within his life spirit. That was the meaning of the existence of the 8 divine mountains, passing down the teachings through the lightning bolts themselves, enabling the ones taking in the bolts to develop will of infernal thunder of Wutu within them, which in turn enabling them to develop talents for that element, paving their way for training within the Emperor of Purple Underground. Imparting the way through the lightning bolts was something that only top-notch forces in Supreme Imperial Realm were able to do. It was unimaginable to the lower worlds. Yi Futian's body had formidable adaptive abilities. With the world tree life spirit and the deed of thorough comprehension at work, it resulted in him melding quickly with the lightning around him, causing all lightning will found within his body to gradually be developed into the will of the great path of infernal thunder of Wutu. With that, he became able to withstand thunderous might of greater power as he became compatible with them. No one would have been able to sustain smiting from over 100 lightning bolts alone otherwise. As Yi Futian kept moving up and overtaking a greater number of people, eventually, there were only 3 people left before him. Lu Yu, a descendant of Sword Emperor of Shocking Clouds, the Thunderbird, a descendant of a demon emperor, Zhu Qi, daughter of the Bamboo Emperor. The Thunderbird continued to consume the lightning of the great path around. The lightning sheen on it shrouded the sky, shining on a vast area. Its eyes were extremely pointed, looking at Lu Yu, who was at the absolute highest point, leaving it and Zhu Qi in the dust behind. Presently, even the Thunderbird was enduring extremely great pressure. That was the same with Zhu Qi. Her body was moving extremely fast, like an illusion. But when lightning bolts flashed, she would have been hindered. Yi Futian gradually caught up with them from behind. His steps were steady as he followed, heading towards the peak of Wutu Divine Mountain. The millstone-like thundercloud above raged on, making it seem like doomsday for those witnessing it. A rumble was heard. Countless on the Divine Mountain looked up and saw a figure walk to the peak one step after another, holding a sword in his hand. The figure was none other than Lu Yu. Some speed indeed. Many shuddered to find that Lu Yu was actually about to get to the top. It was as speculated by many, Lu Yu indeed became the first to get to the top of the Divine Mountain. That descendant of the Sword Emperor of Shocking Clouds, who was capable of attracting lightning with his sword and had incredible proficiency at the ways of lightning, was indeed a cut above the rest. He looked like some god of the sword. His back faced the ones below him as he made it up one step at a time. Yet another flash of lightning blasted. His sword hung above him, and the bolts blasted onto the sword right away, which was then refined by the sword as it passed before finally surging into his body. He looked up in the sky and lifted his legs, continuing to move his way upwards. His sword aura was towering, and boundless lightning glimmered on his sword, making him looking dashing and legendary. That indeed is the number 1 among descendants of the Sword Emperor of Shocking Clouds. Lu Yu will probably be able to study under the Emperor of Purple Underground, some muttered deep down. Many found themselves inferior, looking at legendary figure beneath the thunderclouds. It was not that those people were looking down on themselves, but that it was a glaring fact proven by the powers of the one they were comparing themselves to. The ones who were capable of fighting him were probably the handful of people right below him. He's at the top. Lu Yu stepped out at that moment and reached the peak. The Thunderbird glittered as it moved below him, pulsing with towering flashes of lightning. Zhu Qi took an illusory form and continued moving upward. Her many bodies of lightning melded into a single entity eventually as she moved while stepping on the lightning bolts, making her look impossibly beautiful like a goddess. Yi Futian continued moving steadily right behind them, and he was not all that far from the peak anymore. Lightning bolts flashed again, but they were not able to shake Lu Yu one bit. He refined the bolts as he looked up. There had been a person who withstood 900 strikes and became a personal student of the Emperor of Purple Underground, becoming revered by countless and lauded as the orthodox of infernal thunder of Wutu. That person was to become one of those who would inherit one of the 9 thunders of the Violet Heavenly Palace. However, Li did not think so. Who came first had no bearing when it came to cultivation. What the other person had been able to do back then, he was able to do now as well. No one else had been capable of fighting him. He believed that no one below would be a challenge to him either. For lightning bolts struck from above at the central region of the millstone-like thundercloud. Lu Yu waved his right arm in a dashing manner. The sword hanging above him was quickly turned into 4 swords, appearing in 4 corners and stopping the lightning bolts. The bolts hit the swords, which made it so that they were hitting Lu Yu as well. His clothes billowed, and the lightning flashed in a glittering manner. The might of thunder on the 4 swords surged towards his body. His bearing at the moment was nothing short of legendary. Lu Yu was able to stop the bolts and consume the path of lightning of others. Many looked shocked at what he did. That was a testament to the immense confidence he had in himself. It was as if he were to withstand being baptized by the heavenly bolts all on his own. He was the only being, and no one would have been able to compare to him. You all could stop now, Lu Yu looked down below him and continued, "The Divine Mountain is open today, and I intend to break the past records. I shall withstand 1,000 strikes, and you all can train where you are. There will be no problem for all of you to enter the purple underworld to train." He knew that everyone wanted to reach the top, to stand at the peak of the Divine Mountain, and have themselves rained on by the lightning bolts, enabling them to become beings revered by all. But he deemed that the peak of Divine Mountain could only have one person stand on it, or it would look less than perfect. He had no intention of seeing any who came to the Divine Mountain as rivals. His rivals were those people outside. However, he was competing with them through time and space as they were not of the same generation. "How boisterous!" The Thunderbird said in human speech, "I intend to try as well at the peak and be struck by 1,000 bolts. How about you step down instead?" The bird continued moving upward as soon as it was done saying that. The huge Thunderbird cast towering beams of lightning from its humongous body. Lu Yu shot a plain look at it and did not say anything. He then pointed at the sword hanging in the air. The swords rang and howled under the thunder. Lightning bolts flashed and struck down again as if the sword guided them. It was as if he had been attracting the bolts with his sword. Will of lightning in the vast area of the Divine Mountain gushed towards the sword in a frenzy. A towering flash of lightning of the sword glittered in his surroundings. The scene looked very harrowing. "One sword shall command the thunderclouds," Lu, descendant of the sword emperor of shocking clouds, uttered. The voice reverberated in the air. It was extraordinarily overbearing and sharp. The thunderclouds had indeed moved as the sword was drawn. A sword came down from the sky. The clouds moved with the sword as it zipped past his surroundings, tearing through the sky and coming right before the Thunderbird's body. The Thunderbird howled loudly, and having taken its original form, its body was humongous. That huge body gathered boundless will of lightning, and it fired a bolt of lightning from its beak. Boundless will of lightning that it had consumed before was quickly turned into 81 beams of lightning, tearing through space in a fearsome manner. The two attacks clashed on top of the Divine Mountain. The resulting flash was so blinding that many struggled to keep their eyes open. All 81 beams of lightning seemed to have turned into 81 Thunderbirds, howling through the sky. Yet, its opponent remained using only a single sword to retaliate. The sword commanding the clouds tore through the incoming attacks, continuing to move forward at the body of the Thunderbird. The Thunderbird let out a shrilled howl, and its huge body charged forward. Its huge wings brought terrifying flashes of lightning to bear, which were sharper than blades as they lashed out at the person at the peak. Lu Yu snuffed coldly and pointed his finger at the sky. 9 swords materialized, and it seemed that their powers were 9 times greater than before. The 9 divine beams of light rained down and tore through his opponent's attacks, tearing right through the sky and heading straight for the Thunderbird. A huge rumble was heard, and the sword will penetrated its huge body. Blood spilled, and it crashed into the mountain. Its huge eyes glared at the swords in the sky. The 9 swords remained hanging there instead of raining down. The bird would have probably suffered a worse fate otherwise. "Thank you," the Thunderbird said in human speech. Although its opponent injured it, it remained grateful to its opponent for showing mercy. It had to accept that it had lost. Lu Yu's name was known throughout the region, and he indeed lived up to his fame, proving that his powers were supreme. "What about you all?" Lu Yu looked at those who continued to move up. The ones who were near the peak were Zhu Qi, daughter of the Bamboo Emperor, and Yi Futian. As such, one could assume that he was addressing those two. Zhu Qi's eyes gazed upon Lu Yu, who was in the sky. While she was indeed extremely confident in her powers, the powers of the sword shown before made her realize that she was still unable to take him on. If Lu Yu were to bring his swords down, she did not know how she would have resisted them. Even if she managed to stop them, she would be injured nonetheless. He was attracting lightning bolts with his sword, and Lu Yu became the absolute king in that place for doing so. "We shall see how many lightning strikes you can endure," Zhu Qi said. It was apparent that she gave up. She remained where she was and trained. Lu Yu nodded slightly to her. The world would then witness him taking on the lightning bolts soon after, and he would break the record. It was his goal to take on 1,000 lightning strikes. Some power indeed. He seems invincible. Many who were climbing the mountain were in awe. The Thunderbird lost, and Zhu Qi gave up. They had all been of the same renown before, and all of them had been very famous. At that moment, however, it was apparent who among them proved superior. Lu Yu was a cut above everyone else, and no one had been able to make him budge. Everyone would have only needed to sit around and witness how many lightning strikes he could endure to see if he would be able to break the record of that insane genius. Lu Yu's expression was calm and composed, getting ready to be struck by the lightning of the great path. However, just when he was about to look away, he found another who continued to move upward, which caused him to frown. He made himself very clear and had shown mercy, yet there seemed to be someone who refused his kindness still. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Many at the Divine Mountain noticed Yi Futian as well, because he was the only one near the peak who was still continuing to move upward. Many at the Divine Mountain noticed Yi Futian as well, because he was the only one near the peak who was still continuing to move upward. The Thunderbird and Zhu Qi had both stepped down and gave up, letting Lu Yu take all the glory. They were all wondering, what was Yi Futian trying to do? Is he really going to challenge someone as legendary as Lu Yu? Is he capable of taking on Lu Yu's swords? Who is that guy? Many were wondering deep down, and some voiced the question. Who knows? Everyone shook their heads as none of them knew of Yi Futian. Qi Yu, son of Emperor Qi, however, knew who he was. He looked at Yi Futian and felt rather concerned. Yi Futian's immense talent made him renowned as the #1 genius in Crimson Dragon Realm. But then again, that sword attack from Lu Yu was simply too extraordinary. If Yi Futian were to be unable to take one such attack, he would have to pay a heavy price. Getting to the peak of the Divine Mountain was not child's play. No one who was anything less than a cut above the rest would be able to do so. Many were wondering if he was only a saint who did not know his place. Yi Futian, however, did not care about what the others thought of him. The lightning bolts rained down, and yet he continued moving upwards, getting closer and closer to the peak. He was moving at a very high speed, and it did not take him long to overtake the Thunderbird. That scene caused a hint of coldness flashing in the proud eyes of the Thunderbird. It found it difficult to swallow that Yi Futian had been able to walk past it so easily. The bird had halted its steps. That sword attack from Lu Yu before made the bird stay where it was to train instead. It had no problems acknowledging Lu Yu's strength, but it was baffled to see Yi Futian simply walk past it. Stay where you are, Lu Yu, who was at the peak of the Divine Mountain, said plainly. His voice was devoid of any emotions, telling Yi Futian to just stay below the peak. His sword remained hanging in the air and attracted lightning from above. It was as if he was about to bring a lightning strike on Yi Futian's head if he insisted on continuing to move forward. Thunderous rumbles were heard at that moment. A lightning bolt blasted onto Yi Futian's body, causing him to shudder. However, he had already gotten used to it, so he remained calm, and there was hardly any expression seen on his face. Get down, Yi Futian looked up at Lu Yu and said plainly. Lu Yu saw that Yi Futian scolded him instead of stopping. It was a show of pride like none other. Lu Yu was not the only one caught off guard. Everyone else on the Divine Mountain was baffled as well. Yi Futian told Lu Yu to get out even after seeing his sword attack. It was indeed a tremendous show of confidence. Even the Thunderbird seemed to be unable to take it anymore. It glared at Yi Futian with its proud eyes. Get lost, the bird said in human speech. Its eyes were extremely unruly. Demonic beasts were born prideful. Even if one were to become a saint, it was still difficult to change such inborn nature. It was even more so when such beasts were monsters, as they were the most unruly of all. The Thunderbird had only lowered its head after losing to Lu Yu. At that moment, however, Yi Futian was about to get ahead of it as well. Yi Futian shot a glance at the bird, and a cold glare was seen in his eyes. An extremely intense will of the great path shot into the bird's eyes. Yi Futian's eyes seemed like the eyes of a god. In that instant, it was as if the bird saw nothing else with its huge eyes, only Yi Futian. Its spiritual will balked as if it did not belong to itself any longer. The bird's huge body was unable to help but tremble. A long, shrill cry was heard from the thunderbird. It was as if it was sustaining some kind of intense pain. It struggled intensely, but quickly saw the flashes of lightning in Yi Futian's eyes shooting right into its eyes. "Kneel," Yi Futian uttered in a cold voice as if he was giving an order. The people at the Divine Mountain were wondering who he was talking to. Kneel? They were all wondering who he was talking to. The thunderous might shattered, and the dazzling thunderbird's eyes became dazed. Its legs began to bend slightly. It was as if it was about to kneel after being yelled at by Yi Futian. Another terrifying purple bolt of lightning streaked through the sky. Flashes of lightning were unleashed from the bird's eyes as well, but it seemed that it had come to its senses somewhat. It shook its head for a little. It seemed to have stopped thinking just a while ago, and its brains seemed rather fried. It was shocked to find itself really about to kneel down to Yi Futian. It looked extremely glum within an instant. It was only one step away from being enthralled back in that instant, and the bird deemed it to be unforgivable. The bird was wondering if Yi Futian was humiliating it. When such thoughts ran in its head, the silhouette in that pair of huge eyes expanded exponentially. It had a shocked look in its eyes as it expanded its wings and was about to close them. Yet that silhouette was simply moving too quickly. Stifled rumble was heard, and thousands of lightning strikes hit the bird's body, causing it to shudder violently before being thrown away. The thunderbird collapsed to the ground and rolled off the mountain. Yi Futian did not pay any further attention to the bird and continued to move upward, ignoring it altogether as he was about to reach the peak. The millstone-like thundercloud raged and rumbled. Stifling, devastating might shrouded the area. Lu Yu and Yi Futian were the ones able to sense what was happening the most. The might of the great path of lightning was all over their surroundings. Lu Yu looked at Yi Futian continuing to move upward, and he began to take him somewhat seriously. Yi Futian had been able to overwhelm and defeat the thunderbird in such a short period of time, so much so that he was unable to even see how Yi Futian did it. It was apparent that the man before him was anything but weak. But then again, so what, you intend to just throw me off like that? Li thought. That time when the Divine Mountain was opened again, he deemed the one who was qualified to stand at the peak of Wutu Divine Mountain was only him, Lu Yu. Lu Yu did not allow any others to fight him for the glory. It was something he was determined to get his hands on. He waved his hands about, and the swords howled. 9 swords appeared above him and attracted lightning of the great path. The thunderclouds moved, and the might of lightning raged on. Every single sword contained true devastating powers of lightning. Yi Futian remained unfazed even after seeing everything Lu Yu did. He extended his hand, and the halberd of time and space appeared. That halberd seemed to have been something conjured out of the lightning of the great path. The mark planted in the world tree life spirit within his body shone dazzlingly, causing the tree to glitter with tremendous brilliance. Boundless will of the great path surged into his body, which was then directed to the halberd. That was not all. Every single will of the great path of lightning above the Divine Mountain completely went out of control, materializing as dragons. It surged above Yi Futian's body. Yi Futian, at that moment, seemed to have gathered the might of lightning of the mountain all on his body, which was then refined by the deed of thorough comprehension and surged into the halberd. Everything throughout his surroundings seemed to have been drowned by the flashes of lightning at that moment. That scene was simply too dazzling. "Kill," Lu Yu uttered coldly, which brought lethal might around him to work. Doomsday-like might of lightning rained down, and the millstone clouds in the sky raged, gathering above the sword as they lashed out. It intended to destroy everything before them. Countless lightning bolts flashed at the very same moment, blinding many people. In that instant, a bolt of lightning seemed to streak through space. The great path was condensed into a single entity, and only the halberd reigned supreme. The crowd saw the two beams clashing with each other. Intense, devastating light that was so blinding that no one was able to open their eyes was seen soon after. That space was drowned out by that white light. Lightning flashed all around them, and the crowd locked their eyes in that direction. Everything became clear a while later. Someone stood at the peak silently. It was as if he had been there all along. The eyes of many were frozen when they made clear of the one who remained standing. The man's silver hair billowed in the wind. The one who stood at the peak of Wutu Divine Mountain had surprisingly been Yi Futian instead. Coughing noises were heard, and it was only then that many saw that someone rose below the peak, who was stained in blood all over and had a weak aura. That person was none other than Lu Yu, who looked as if he was a supreme being just a while ago. It was as if heaven was turned into hell within an instant. Many thought that their eyes were playing tricks on them. Lu Yu had actually been defeated. Who is he? Many looked at Yi Futian and asked. They were asking who Yi Futian was. Lu Yu displayed legendary might and intended to challenge the Divine Mountain's record. Yet, at that moment, someone else emerged and kicked him off of the peak right away. That scene was just too shocking for the crowd. He is actually at the top. Chi Yu was feeling speechless as he locked his eyes on the scene. Yi Futian was the one who had eventually gotten to the peak. Lu Yu, who was right below the peak, looked like he was in shambles. Another cough was heard, and blood sputtered from his mouth. He looked up at Yi Futian, and he completely lost all that air he had been putting up just a while ago. He looked like a complete loser right there and then. He thought that he would not have found any rivals at the Divine Mountain. His rivals would have been on other divine mountains and in records of old. Yi Futian's white garb billowed as he stood at the peak. His expression was extremely calm. Even though he had gotten to the top, he did not show even the slightest hint of joy. His state of mind was hardly fazed at the moment. He needed more than just getting to the top. He wanted the Emperor of Purple Underground to notice him. He took a deep breath and looked up. The raging clouds above seemed to be inches above his head. It was as if he could have touched them simply by extending his hand. Taking on 900 strikes of lightning, huh? He then put his hands behind his back. A bolt of lightning struck from above the sky. He let the bolt strike him instead of blocking it. Boom! Yi Futian basked in heavenly lightning with a rumble, looking dashing and legendary. His hands remained behind his back, and he did not flinch, standing tall at the peak. Lightning bolts descended upon him as they shrouded the entire Divine Mountain, blasting everyone. Yi Futian, who was at the peak, was always the first to take on the strikes. However, he seemed like a statue who just took everything in silence. Many had illusions well up in their minds, seeing that figure before them. They were all thinking that the man before them might have been able to break the record after all. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. A silver-haired figure stood tall at the peak of Wutu Divine Mountain. Thunderclouds roared above his head, and lightning bolts kept coming down at him, bombarding his body. A silver-haired figure stood tall at the peak of Wutu Divine Mountain. Thunderclouds roared above his head, and lightning bolts kept coming down at him, bombarding his body. The scene, when viewed from the bottom of the mountain, was like someone braving the ordeals of the heavenly path. That silver-haired man remained unflinching as he withstood one attack after another. That was not all. No one at Wutu Divine Mountain moved at that moment. All who remained behind at the Divine Mountain took their corners and took the brunt of the lightning attacks in silence. Divine lightning bolts rained down from above in the Divine Mountain. That scene looked like a miracle from the heavens, stunning the hearts of those seeing it. "How many strikes has it been now?" someone at the bottom asked. 127, someone answered. That person's eyes remained locked onto where Yi Futian was. He had been struck by over 100 lightning bolts and remained unflinching throughout. In contrast, many in other corners of the mountain were no longer able to take the attacks and were thrown off of the mountain. A vast, seemingly endless thunder net gradually appeared at the peak, with Yi Futian's body at the very center as it continued to spread below. It was as if the net was about to envelop all of the Divine Mountain. "From the looks of it, it seems like he is truly out to challenge the record," someone said. However, even the thought of taking on 900 strikes was terrifying enough to make everyone shudder. From the looks of how things were at the peak of that Divine Mountain, it seemed as if just one lightning strike alone would strike fear into those witnessing it, let alone 900 strikes. Let's just see how much of the seed of the infernal thunder of Wutu he was able to refine, someone said at the side. The number of lightning strikes capable of being taken on had an extremely important role in working on the seed. The opening of the 8 divine mountains itself was an act of the heavenly lightning planting seeds on those who would take it, with the process being seen similar to being blessed and reaching enlightenment. To those training in the ways of lightning, that was an opportunity in itself, as one would earn the chance of having the infernal thunder of Wutu being forcefully planted inside them. This would enable them to work and develop the seed. Doing so would have enabled them to manipulate the infernal thunder of Wutu. The greater one's comprehension was, the greater the resistance one would have developed when taking on the strikes. If one were to simply take on 900 lightning strikes armed with fortitude gained from their own training, one would eventually end up dead without knowing how they died. As time passed, fewer and fewer people remained at the Divine Mountain. It was apparent that they were not able to take on the heavenly lightning strikes that had grown increasingly strong. After quite a while later, there were only 3 people left on the Wutu Divine Mountain. Those 3 were Yi Futian, Lu Yu, and Zhu Qi. However, at that moment even Zhu Qi spat up blood. She looked up at the man above and felt rather impressed, then turned around and descended the mountain. She never expected a cultivator that she never knew would have been the one to challenge the record of the Divine Mountain that day. Lu Yu sighed. He had been there to challenge the record on that day, yet he was injured by Yi Futian and was no longer able to sustain being struck for much longer. He left the mountain in a dejected manner soon after Zhu Qi left. He had been ahead of everyone and acted boisterously before. Everyone thought he would have been the one standing at the peak. At that moment, however, it was evident that he was little more than an accessory. It was as if his existence had been for showing how magnificent that silver-haired young man had been. There was eventually only one person left in the tall, majestic Divine Mountain. He stood at the peak, enjoying himself being watched by the world and becoming that one absolute being. 820 strikes now, someone mumbled as their heart raced. The man at the peak was not far away from the set record. That man above remained standing tall like an ancient god. At that moment, Yi Futian was actually under tremendous pressure at the peak. Every single lightning strike that landed on his body would leave a mark. At that moment, there were countless seeds of the mark. His world tree life spirit had turned into a tree of lightning as well, shimmering with dazzling light. What was even more terrifying was that all ways of lightning at the Divine Mountain resonated with the seeds. The Wutu Divine Mountain was like a mountain of lightning in itself. He stood at the top and basked in heavenly thunder. Whenever he was struck by a lightning bolt, the mark in his body would be triggered, resonating with the boundless lightning throughout the mountain. The devastating power within that instant was unbelievably terrifying. The strikes grew increasingly strong as they went on. However, his life spirit was capable of consuming every single bit of might from the lightning strikes. As such, he was still able to remain standing, not budging in the slightest. But then again, the fact that he was under tremendous shock every time the lightning bolts struck remained. Yi Futian felt the boundless lightning will coursing throughout his body. That was the infernal thunder of Wutu. There were also the righteous thunder of Yimu, the solar thunder of Binghua, the shade thunder of Guishui, the perilous thunder of Gingjin, the divine thunder of Zhuxia, the demonic thunder of Lucian, and the violet thunder of Xingmia, all of which being part of the other 7 true lineages of the Way of Thunder. One would have wondered just how powerful the other 7 were. The Violet Heavenly Palace was a place that gathered all 8 true lineages of the Way of Thunder. One could have imagined just how terrifying someone who had trained in all 72 layers of the Way of Thunder would be. Yet another lightning bolt struck. At that moment, the entire Divine Mountain lit up brilliantly. It was as if the place had resonated and melded into a single being with him. Yi Futian's body flashed with lightning as well, turning his body into one of lightning. The lightning bolts continued to hit him, and everyone below the Divine Mountain counted in their minds. 891 strikes. Many shuddered as they stood below. The air was stifling. 892, 893, When the 899th bolt struck, everyone seemed to have stopped breathing altogether due to extreme nervousness. Boom! A brilliant light flashed as a lightning bolt descended from above. The 900th bolt hit the Wutu Divine Mountain and onto the Yi Futian's body. 900 strikes of the heavenly thunder. That was the set record from before. The Divine Mountain lit up as the lightning bolts washed out throughout the entire Divine Mountain. The man who was standing at the peak remained standing firm. He remained unscathed after being struck 900 times. That meant that he was still far from reaching his limit. The record was about to be broken, many muttered to themselves. Yet another lightning bolt flashed before long, breaking the record set at the Wutu Divine Mountain. A new record was set at the Wutu Divine Mountain, and everyone thought Yi Futian was about to be taken as a personal student by the Emperor of Purple Underground. Everyone wondered if he would replace Zhang Changqing, the man who had set the previous record, and become the true successor of the Wutu lineage of the Violet Heavenly Palace. Everyone thought that there might be an intense competition between him and Zhang Changqing in the future. It was known to all that Zhang Changqing was the one lauded to be the successor of the Emperor of Purple Underground, after all, making him the successor of the infernal thunder of Wutu. Many mighty ones remained outside the Divine Mountain. Their eyes were fixed on the Divine Mountain, and Zhang Changqing was standing with his hands behind his back. "Changqing, someone broke your record," an elder by his side said. "Records are meant to be broken after all." Zhang Changqing's voice sounded calm, and he was hardly fazed. There was no record that would last forever. The elder smiled and said, "Indeed, but now, you have earned yourself a competitor for the lineage of Wutu." Zhang Changqing looked on and said, "It would be great for the Wutu lineage to have yet another figure of this class. As for competition, I do hope that he possesses such talents." "You really are confident." The elder smiled and did not say more. He knew how capable Zhang Changqing was. Zhang Changqing's talents in the ways of lightning were superb and second to none. He was the #1 candidate for Purple Underworld and the most valued successor to their lineage. However, no one knew at that moment just how capable the man who had broken the record was. Zhang Changqing did not say anything else. He changed the subject and talked about something else instead. "More are here now. I don't really get it. How has that one descendant of the Gu clan caused so much commotion with the higher-ups? While it remains true that Gu Tianxing was someone who stood at the top all those years ago, it was just him alone. He was only one man among the Gu clan. Despite being the successor of the Gu clan, he is but a member of all out there. Why is he worth that much of a commotion, I wonder? It is said that even the ones from the Violet Heavenly Palace are here to take him away. Everything happens for a reason. I've heard that the Gu clan was prosperous under the leadership of Gu Tianxing all those years ago. But then again, the Gu clan alone would have been able to represent the celestial gate of vast heaven, and Gu Tianxing had been able to master the mystical methods unique to the Gu clan to the extreme, making it possible for him to break through the bonds of the heavenly path. The Gu clan had also been able to produce 12 mystical ones out of one faction, a pinnacle of their achievements, after Gu Tianxing rose to fame and power, making them almost standing at the pinnacle of heavenly mandate realm. I think there are reasons why those big shots valued him so much. Zhang Changqing nodded slightly and said nothing else. Heavenly thunder continued to roll where the Divine Mountain was at that moment. Countless below the mountain looked up, their eyes all locked on Yi Futian. Yi Futian was still taking on the lightning bolts at the peak. The 8 divine mountains are opened and lightning rain from the heavens to bestow foundations of the great path. The number of lightning bolts is 999. Is he trying to challenge the limit? Someone asked, thinking such an endeavor to be insane. That limit was what many called to be the 1,000 strikes of heavenly thunder. All of the 8 divine mountains had only seen 3 have such limits broken, where people took on 999 lightning strikes without falling, remaining standing until the lightning strikes disappeared. At that moment, Yi Futian was at the Wutu Divine Mountain, and many were wondering if he was attempting one such endeavor. Qiyu looked up in the sky and felt somewhat speechless. Not only was the man, whose talents were unparalleled throughout Crimson Dragon Realm, about to break the record of Wutu Divine Mountain at the moment, but he also seemed to be out to challenge the limit of the divine mountains. 9:36. Countless people beneath counted in silence. Every single lightning strike seemed to be shocking their hearts. Their fists remained clenched when the 990th lightning bolt flashed, looking on with intense anticipation. It was no longer about breaking the record set on Wutu Divine Mountain, it was about breaking the limit. If he were to succeed, he would make Wutu Divine Mountain be the fourth having such a limit broken. Zhang Changqing, who was standing outside, no longer looked calm and unfazed like he was before. He looked rather moved at that moment. It was no longer about breaking his record. That man at the peak was about to leave him in the dust and challenge the limit instead. Prior to that, everyone would have still compared Yi Futian to him. At that moment, however, the newcomer had overtaken him by a large margin. The elder by his side looked on with a peculiar look as well, feeling rather excited deep down. They, too, wanted to see Wutu Divine Mountain's limit be broken. 996. An elder mumbled to himself. They were not the only ones. In the royal palace of the Emperor of Purple Underground, far away from the Divine Mountain, a group of people gazed from their platforms, their eyes looking far away. Even the Emperor himself had been present and stood with his hands behind his back. His eyes gazed far away. Those eyes seemed to be able to pierce through the void as they looked at the Divine Mountain. Boom! Yet another bolt of lightning flashed. The robe worn by the Emperor billowed. There were many top-notch figures around him, some even being Renhuangs. All of them were of other forces of the true lineages. They were all looking far away at that moment. That would be the last, someone mumbled. Another bolt of lightning descended as soon as the line was said. The Emperor flashed a plain smile on his face. On the way, the Purple Underground, which represented the lineage of Wutu, saw the limit of their divine mountain broken. "Congratulations, Your Majesty." Many bowed slightly to the Emperor, congratulating him. The Emperor of Purple Underground had just earned himself yet another superbly talented student. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.